My husband cheated in our home, filmed it, and I found the videos. I was with my partner for 12 years, 6 years dating, 6 years married. I thought our relationship was going well, aside from the usual small disagreements that every couple has. We had even started planning to have a child, something we had postponed due to our careers. Then, one random day, I found videos on his computer, videos of him in our home, in our bed with escorts. My whole world shattered in an instant. Whenever I was away for work trips or visiting my family, he was bringing escorts into our house and recording everything. He admitted to doing this for the past 2 years, which probably means it had been going on even longer. He never once discussed any issues with me. Instead, he lived a separate life behind my back. On top of everything, we were actively trying for a child, and he never even considered the risk of exposing me to sexually transmitted infections. I was fortunate to test negative, but the sheer disregard for my health and trust is something I cannot process. When I confronted him, he said he has an addiction to adult content and that our relationship was not enough for him. But he never once talked to me about this and just made the decision to betray me for years. What makes this even harder is that it was not just me who was blindsided. My entire family and all of our mutual friends were just as shocked. He hid this part of himself so well that no one suspected a thing. He acted like the perfect husband, the perfect friend, the perfect son-in-law, all while leading a completely separate life behind closed doors. We got divorced immediately. I left everything behind. It is over, but my anger has not faded. The images from those videos are burned into my mind. I try to distract myself to move on, but I do not know how to erase these memories from my head. If you have been through something similar, how do you let go of something like this? I left my wife after she said I wasn't manly enough. We had been together since we were 18. She was my first everything, whereas she had been with a few people before me. We have an 18-year-old daughter together who is an amazing, brilliant, and kind person. I could not have asked for a better child. Over the last few years, my wife had been making the occasional comment about my masculinity, and I brushed it off. But she really escalated it in the past year, and I ended up leaving her about 3 months ago because of it. I do not want this to sound like a humble brag, but I do think I am quite manly, while also just being a normal person. I am tall, I work out a few times a week. I can do any do-it-yourself tasks around the house. I can fix cars. I used to be an amateur boxer and cage fighter, and I still do that as a hobby to stay fit. The things she said were not manly about me include: I like to bake. I like to cook. I do not drink. I do not care if others do. It is just not for me. I like Taylor Swift, Charlie XCX, Ariana Grande, Sabrina Carpenter, etc. My main choice in music will always be rap, but having a teenage daughter means those kinds of artists get played, and I enjoy some of their songs, so I listen to them. I do not see that as a bad thing. I have a powerful car and a motorbike, but my preferred method of transport is a Volkswagen Up. It is a small car with a little engine, but if it is just me and my gym bag or work bag, I do not see the problem. Plus, I am not one of those people who thinks the kind of car someone drives means anything. My ex-wife disagreed and said I give off a certain vibe in it. I tend to walk away from arguments with strangers. She perceives any slight as a personal insult. If you cut in front of her in traffic, she is leaning on the horn. If someone does not say thank you when she holds a door open, she is yelling at them. I just prefer to let things slide. One example, someone was being obnoxious to me on a night out for no reason. He was in my face, calling me all sorts of names and even pushed me a couple of times. I just smiled at him and walked away, saying I hoped he got home safely. When we got home, she said I embarrassed her in front of her friends by letting him talk to me like that. I said, "What is the point of me hurting a drunk kid who is half my size?" She said I am a doormat for the world. There are a few other things, mainly connected to stuff my daughter and I have in common around silly social media videos. She said it is like living with two teenage girls. In September, I left her. I said I cannot be spoken to like this anymore and be belittled. It is not fair. Even then, she had one last dig and said a real man would change. She has since changed her tone and said she is willing to go to therapy, both individual and couples, to try and work through her issues. I do not know if the cuts from the things she has said are too deep, though. Since I left, I have felt more relaxed and happier. I do not have to worry when I put a song on or want to bake a cake or cook something a little different about what would be said. At the same time, though, it is scary, as she is all I have known, and being alone and meeting new people scares me because I have never done that before. Everything is telling me I am on the right path now, but I have a lingering doubt in my head that all those words she spoke about me are true, and that I am an annoying person who will be alone forever. Hearing my roommate have intercourse makes me hate myself. This morning a 26-year-old man, had to listen to my roommate, also 26, be intimate with his girlfriend, who is 26 as well, for an hour and a half. It started around 8:30 in the morning. I heard some slapping sounds and her moaning. I delayed going into the kitchen to make coffee because hearing it made me feel upset. By 9:30, I was in the kitchen, and her moaning was extremely loud. Then they moved to the shower and I could still hear everything. This is not the first time. I previously had to ask my roommate to move his bed frame away from the wall because it was banging and shaking the whole apartment. Now I am studying and working in my room, listening to them giggle with each other in the kitchen. It does not make me hate them, it makes me hate myself. Hearing him be physically close with his girlfriend of nearly a year makes me incredibly sad and makes me feel bad about myself. I have only been with someone once in the past year. I have gone on a few dates here and there, but I am so busy with work that I make excuses not to date. I do not feel like it is right to ask him to stop being intimate with his girlfriend. We went to college together and are good friends. It makes me feel this way because I am jealous. I am jealous of him having someone to be close with. I am upset with myself because I am afraid to talk to women. It is not just about the physical part, though of course I would like to be physically close with someone. It is the lack of emotional intimacy that a romantic relationship brings. I have many loving friends, both men and women, a caring family, and a satisfying career, but I have never been in a romantic relationship for more than a month. The worst part about all of this is that it is 100% my fault. I am not unattractive. I have my life together. I am physically fit. I can be funny. And in general, people seem to like me. The only reason I do not have a girlfriend is because I am terrified of trying. I can barely even talk to my therapist about this. It just makes me feel like I am being a whiny loser who is obsessed with feeling sorry for themselves. To me, self-pity is one of the most unattractive traits a person can have. I think that is another reason I prevent myself from dating. I do not feel like I am good enough. I have confidence in every other aspect of my life, except when it comes to romance. It has been so long and I feel broken. This turned into a rant about my dating life, but that is what hearing my roommate be intimate makes me think about. It makes me feel inferior because I am missing a key part of the human experience, romantic love. I broke my back trying to recreate a corn move. This happened a couple of weeks ago, and I still think about it every time I went walking up the stairs. My girlfriend and I have been together for a while and our romantic life is solid, but you know how sometimes you get a little too inspired? Yeah, that was me. One night she was out with her friends, I stayed home, and I ended up on a certain website for research purposes. I stumbled upon this video where the guy had the girl in what I can only describe as a Cirque du Soleil meets Kama Sutra hybrid. She was squatting on top of him while he supported her from underneath in a kind of bridge pose, using just his back and thighs. And they were going at it like it was nothing. My very average, not so flexible desk-sitting self thought, easy. So the next night we're making out, things are heating up, and in a moment of completely misplaced confidence I say, "Hey, want to try something new?" She raises an eyebrow, laughs a little and goes, "Sure, surprise me." Oh, she had no idea what was coming. I try to guide her into position while getting myself into this pseudo-bridge I remembered from the video. The moment she gets on top, I realize I massively overestimated my abilities. My thighs start trembling almost immediately, but I try to push through. She's giggling, thinking it's all part of the fun. 5 seconds in, my core gives up completely. My arms slip, my back arches in a way it definitely should not, and I just collapse. She flies forward like a sack of potatoes, hits her shoulder on the edge of the bed frame, and I let out a noise somewhere between a gasp and a dying walrus. We both freeze for a second, unsure whether to be concerned or to burst out laughing. I ask, "Are you okay?" And she just loses it, like snorting, wheezing, tears streaming down her face, laughing. I'm still on the bed, trying not to cry from the pain in my lower back, and she's on the floor, laughing uncontrollably. The mood, absolutely annihilated. Romance, dead and buried. We ended up lying in bed later with an ice pack on her arm and a heating pad on my spine, watching dumb Netflix comedies in awkward silence. The next morning, I had to explain why I was limping at work by saying I tweaked something at the gym. Not technically a lie, just not the whole truth. Now anytime I so much as mention trying something new, she immediately goes, "Wait, did you see it in Corn again?" Lesson learned. Those moves are done by professionals, with core strength forged in fire. I, unfortunately, am built like a guy who skips leg day and stretches once a year. Never again. My mother-in-law saw me gooning in a tub. I have a silly little bedtime routine. I put the kids to bed, and then I head to the bathroom to use some personal time with my toys. Tonight, everything was going according to plan. I started the dryer, which helps cover the noise, and got to work. This time, though, I decided to wear my noise-canceling headphones. These things are amazing. So amazing, in fact, that I didn't hear my dogs barking as my mother-in-law let herself in for an unannounced visit. Cue her walking in on me right as I was about to finish. Now, I did manage to save myself a few seconds of extra embarrassment, but only because I noticed she was already standing there, getting a full, uninterrupted view of me in all my glory. She just stared for a moment, calmly walked over, turned off the dryer and said, "I heard it banging across the house." And that was it. She walked away. No yelling, no comment on anything else. She already wasn't my biggest fan, so now I'm absolutely terrified of who she's going to tell. Family, friends, the entire group chat. I've been cheated on for 3/4 of my relationship with my wife, and basically the entirety of our marriage. The affair partner was an old friend I've known for over 20 years. An unexpected emergency recently required me to be away for a month, and one night upon returning, I discovered a Cash App receipt on her phone showing she had sent money to him. I also noticed several explicit videos and pictures she had shown me when I got back. Ones she claimed were made for me, were actually created around that same time. For context, she, or rather we, I guess, have a history with this man that makes her contacting him at all extremely suspicious. Around 7 years ago, the same year we got married, the three of us had an unplanned and admittedly poorly thought-out encounter, heavily influenced by alcohol, that went extremely badly, to say the least. Mainly, I felt like she made the entire thing about the two of them, completely disregarding my feelings or how it might affect me. I ended up having a bit of a mental health crisis afterward and became extremely paranoid about their relationship and intentions. She, however, repeatedly assured me that there was nothing going on between them anymore. She basically convinced me, through a mix of emotional manipulation, fake crying, and gaslighting, that my suspicions were baseless, that they stemmed from my own mental health struggles, and that I was really hurting her by not trusting her. So what happened when I confronted her about the recent incident? She admitted not only to contacting him, sending money, and making the videos and pictures specifically for him, but also that she had reached out to him for emotional support whenever we had issues. She admitted to sending and requesting explicit photos off and on again over the past 7 years. She claims she backed out of sending the most recent photos at the last minute and insists their contact, since she supposedly cut ties with him, never went beyond flirting, explicit pictures, and on one occasion, expressing a mutual desire to possibly be intimate again. Of course, I don't believe a word she says. And honestly, even if I did, her actions and the continuous lies have already gone way beyond disrespecting every boundary I ever set. Like I said, this all started in the first year of our marriage. On top of that, I dug deeper and discovered she had been sexting another guy for the first 6 or 7 months of our relationship. And we were together for nearly 4 years before we even got married. So now I'm sitting with the realization that, out of the 12 years we've been together, she's only been faithful for about 3 of them, as far as I know. Her justification, of course, is the usual. I'm a terrible person who acts out because I need to feel validated, but you have to believe me. I really do love you more than anything in the world. I only did those things because I'm so messed up inside, and so on. Then come the promises to change, to never do it again, and the performance of remorse. But honestly, I just feel like a complete fool for letting myself be strung along by someone who clearly took advantage of my trust. I feel like the stupidest man alive. I gave everything I had to this relationship, for someone who was fully capable of doing this to me again and again. I even lost my mother suddenly to cancer this past year. She passed within 4 months of her diagnosis, and even that didn't stop my wife from piling more trauma on top of my grief. At this point, her actions feel so cold and detached, it almost feels like intentional cruelty. I don't even know who this person is anymore, the person I've spent the last 12 years with. I'm genuinely horrified by her lack of real remorse or ability to understand how deeply her choices affect others. I literally let myself believe that my valid concerns were just paranoia caused by my mental health struggles. I worked hard to improve myself because I thought I was being unfair to her, and she was perfectly fine letting me carry that burden, as long as it helped cover her lies and allowed her to maintain a secret relationship. I don't even know where to begin when it comes to taking care of myself or trying to rebuild any sense of self-worth. 12 years of my life feel like a lie that I invested far too much into. And now we have kids who will also be affected if I choose to end things. So everything just feels overwhelmingly messed up. I let my chronically ill 8-year-old daughter try weed. My 8-year-old daughter has spent her life in and out of the hospital. She's entirely tube-fed, incontinent, and experiences significant pain when walking. She's unable to climb or lift herself, and for outings that involve walking, she uses a stroller. It absolutely breaks my heart to see how hard she tries, but it hurts even more to see how much pain she's constantly in. She's already on the highest possible doses of painkillers for her weight, and they barely make a difference. She has physiotherapy 3 days a week and heat therapy 2 more days a week. The only way she can sleep is with strong sedatives, which come with their own side effects. She's irritable and groggy the next day. Without them, by bedtime, she's screaming from the unbearable pain. That said, she's incredibly precocious and recognized as gifted. I had to withdraw her from school when her mobility became more limited, but she's thriving with home education. She'll be sitting all of her exams early. She loves to swim. She loves to ride her bike with her brothers. She's so kind and so loving. She's an absolutely amazing child and the light of my life. I can't stand seeing her suffer. She's had 14 surgeries so far, and there are at least 2 more planned before she turns 10. She's aware of everything happening to her, and that's what makes it so heartbreaking. So, a week ago, Her mother and I allowed her to take 2 inhalations from a legally prescribed medical cannabis vaporizer. I know how serious and risky that decision was, but it was not done against her will. We explained everything in detail, every risk, every consequence, within the limits of her understanding, which is far beyond her age. She can debate the morality of capital punishment for draft dodgers in World War I. I am fully confident she understood that what we were doing was not legal, and that she had every right to say yes or no. We explained that this would be a one-time thing. It might help, it might not. It was like a science experiment. We arranged for her brothers to stay at their uncle's house for the night so she could have undivided attention. Her mother and I stayed with her the entire time. That night, she ate her first oral meal in more than 6 months and slept peacefully for 9 hours without sedation. The next morning, she was cheerful and smiling. It wasn't until 32 hours later, we timed it, that she began showing any signs of pain or discomfort. I wish the laws were different. I wish there were a way for her to be legally prescribed this kind of relief at her age. But for now, if nothing else, she has something to look forward to when she turns 18, some hope for eventual relief. I regret that we broke the law. I regret that we had to take a risk. I don't know if the ends justify the means. And honestly, I think I'm going to be lying awake at night for a long time, thinking about that.